Even if you're going outside with just a simple homemade cloth mask, there's some 3D printed accessories I can show you that might help make them more effective. One of the hardest things about working from home in relative isolation for all of these weeks is that I haven't had access to all the 3D printers and laser cutters and other tools in the CNET Maker Lab. And this is a perfect time for it too, because everyone is 3D printing and creating face shields and face masks and accessories and sharing them with their friends and their family or with local organizations and hospitals that need them. And I've been very left out of that loop. So I was finally able to get a 3D printer delivered here to me. It's a new DaVinci Junior from XYZ Printing. It's one of their more professional models. It's got a fairly large print bed. You can use all sorts of filament with it. And of course, I immediately went to work looking up some of the most popular designs for mask accessories and even working on a couple of my own designs. All things that will help make the protective gear that you have more effective. The first thing I dealt with is these homemade cloth masks. I've actually got my mother here, and she has been churning these out for people in this town and local organizations. The first versions had cloth straps that you would tie around the back of your head. The second versions were with elastic. And these, like a surgical mask, would go over the back of your ear. That's pretty uncomfortable for people. So one of the first things I found to 3D print were these little clasps that you could use with the elastic on the face mask. And you just hook the elastic over here, and it's got several sizing options on it, and around the other side, and you put it on like that, and it really holds on well. I was very happy with this design. I wish the elastic we had to work with was a little bit thinner to fit into the fins. I could either make the fins a little bit wider or try a different design. But for the wide elastic and the multiple size options, I found this to be very effective, and it printed very quickly. I've made a whole bunch of these. Then I went back to the cloth string versions of the masks, and those look like this, and you would put them on and you would tie them. I found a design for some really cool clasps that I could 3D print, and they hook together like this, and they hold the mask very securely. So you put these on like this, clasp it in the back, give a little tug here, and that tightens them, and that's become quickly my favorite way to wear a mask. And of course, when you have these cloth masks, which is really what a lot of people are making right now, you want to make sure that they're secure on your face. You get a pretty decent seal around your nose and around your chin, and that you can tighten it effectively, and you're not always fidgeting with it. That's the problem with a lot of homemade masks especially. You end up adjusting them and moving them and fidgeting them, and that involves a lot of face touching, and that's exactly what you want to avoid. So for elastic straps, I love this clasp right here, and for fabric straps, I really love this two-piece clasp that is very effective and holds very nicely. So those are the couple of things I like for taking your homemade cloth masks and making them more effective. Another thing I saw a lot of is people printing face shields. They would basically print the headband for a face shield and then attach some sort of clear plastic material to it. I managed to get a couple of headbands printed up fairly easily. It took me a little while to get some plastic. I managed to get some plastic sheets, and I took a simple hole punch with the design that I printed and punched out 3 holes, and now I have a reasonably effective looking face shield that fits on just like that. And people make these in very large quantities because the headbands are fairly quick to make on a 3D printer. And even if you don't have the plastic, local organizations appreciate the face shield strap part, and they can add the plastic themselves. Or of course you can do the entire project like this. And of course you add whatever you want to tie it on the back. I just have some string here. You could try elastic. I've done it with rubber bands. There's a whole lot of ways to do it. So face masks and face shields, both very useful things to have and things that people appreciate getting from you. Another thing that I've seen a lot of versions of online, and of course I had to print a whole bunch of, are tools for opening doors, pressing buttons, doing things that you normally would do with your hands. And of course you don't want to do that when you're out at the supermarket, at the bank, anywhere else. I tried a couple of different designs. First tried this one that's very small. It's got some good finger holders on it. It's got a nice hook for gripping onto a door and opening it, and I really like that it has a pointer. So if you're at the ATM machine or the credit card machine at the supermarket, you can tap the numbers like that. And of course, you can hook into door hooks and refrigerator hooks and anything, drawers, and pull them open like that. This design was a little thin. I could thicken it up in a CAD program and make it more effective. I found another one I like that really has a great ergonomic feel. It's this one right here. And again, it has a little grip. It's got a little hole. You could hook it onto a keychain or something like that. And it's got a hook here that you could use to open a door. These are all for those, latch style doors with the handles that go down. I haven't found one that's effective for round doorknob handles yet, but I'm still looking. And of course, it's got a little notch at the top. You can use to hook onto stuff, and it doesn't really have as much of a finger pointer as the first model had, so I didn't like it as much for that. I actually started messing around in Tinkercad, designing my own version that I thought would mix strength and size and features. This is my first rough draft of it right here. It's made basically from hollow hexagons, so you really have a lot of strength here without using too much material, although this prototype version is very thick, and it's got the door holder right here. You can use to pull open all sorts of doors, and is again very strong. And it's got the little pointer, almost like a curled knuckle right here, and you can use that for pressing buttons and doing things like that. And then I built in a little hook right here. If you want to unplug your phone from somewhere without touching the charger or the cable, you can just put this down over that cable and pull your phone free. I still have some refining to do on it. Frankly, the edges are a little sharp. I see now why so many of the other ones have rounded edges, and mine is a little more angular. It's not quite as comfortable to hold. But even this big, thick, gigantic door tool took about 1 hour and 40 minutes to print on a lower resolution draft setting, but still very effective. So all of these things don't take terribly long to print if you have a 3D printer. You can print one of these little clasps in probably about half an hour. Same thing, maybe even a little bit less for these little guys. The face shield helmet part probably took about 1 hour, maybe a little bit more. So you can really churn out a lot of these if you have, like some small businesses do, a whole lot of printers, 3D printers sitting around, 5 of them, 10 of them, if you're a small shop somewhere. And frankly, if you're just an individual, you can get a fair number of products out during the course of a day if you're just sitting around at home looking for something helpful to do. And of course, there are plenty of places online where you can sign up to volunteer, and people can either send you requests, or you can say, I have X number of face mask clasps available, let me know if you need them, and I'll send them to you. And of course, you could just work with local organizations like my mother does with all of the dozens of cloth face masks she's been making. So those are some ways that you can use a 3D printer to make some extra accessories to help keep yourself and everyone else just a little bit safer.